Hi, I'm Michael. I'm an entrepreneur, small business owner, improv artist, mental health surviving, finally a paid actor for my first time, guys. And as always, I am very, very neurotic. I'm also a TV host and your host right now for what we call the Second Scene podcast. It is a Dweebs Global production. That is why we do the podcast for dweebsglobal.org. They supply free mentorship help, anything from resume writing to mental health. They around the world, any language. They have a mentor waiting for you now. So dweebsglobal.org. So I'm here today with Amy Hager. Did I say that right? Am I pronouncing your last name right? Amy Hager. Amy has done it all, from teaching Pilates, working in IT, attending to men with schizophrenia in a group home, to riding go-karts. She did that for a living for a long time. To being a super successful classic rock DJ, to being a part of a business called Joyful Business Revolution, where their main motto is, if it ain't joyful, we ain't doing that shit. So welcome to the podcast. Really happy to have you here, Amy.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
So I wanted to start by asking about go-karting, because that is just something that you don't hear about people doing to make money, right? You were doing it to make money.
Well, and it wasn't necessarily doing it to make money. It was, in all honesty, it was, my dad didn't have a boy and he's a big car guy. And so I went full into it and actually learned how to drive a snowmobile before I could walk. And so it's crazy because racing go-karts really led to a lot of things now later in life that who would have known when I started doing this at 8, that it would be like what really changed and what really projected my life into a different way than I think I could have ever imagined. But my husband actually used to race go-karts too, and we hated each other.
Did you know each other at the age when you were racing go-karts?
Oh yeah, we did. We very much so, because I've been black flagged for flipping him off.
Oh no, flipping his go-kart or flipping him off with your finger? Was this more of a
flipping him off with my finger? Yeah.
Okay. So you were a hardcore go-kartist.
Yeah, I mean, I was pretty hardcore. Like, I used to go after championships and travel a circuit. So if you think about NASCAR, how they go to different tracks and stuff, it's the same thing at the go-kart level. But I was maybe one of a dozen girls, maybe.
And you were racing with the boys. So it was all one big league, and there was no separation at there.
Yeah, there was no separation at all at that, I guess, in that sport. And even when you think about the larger NASCAR, Indy, everything, like, the girls race with the guys.
Gotcha. Is there a disadvantage? I don't know that much about racing, so if I'm...
No, ask away.
Okay. Because men and women, we have a difference in strength. Is there any strength advantage when it comes to go-karting? Because racing, they always say, you need to be in shape. You need to be so strong for it. So I'm not really sure what that means then.
So in racing or in go-karting, to be honest, you have to have a lot of upper body strength, right? But one of the advantages that I had is, and you'll see a lot of race car drivers are small people. They're short in stature and they're very lightweight. And so I was a very lightweight child. And so in order to make the go-kart, you had to weigh a certain weight with your go-kart and the kid inside it. We could then strategically place these little lead weights all over the go-kart to help it handle better. So because I was smaller, there was that advantage. But, I used to have, the really strong tonedness in the upper body, and just making sure that you kept that going. And, we're not racing 500 miles like the Daytona 500 did this week.
Right.
But still, I mean, 20 minutes out there, 20 laps out there, it definitely is a lot.
Gotcha.
So it is kind of interesting.
Yeah, and now that I've taken my kids go-karting a few times, and now that I think about it, we would go and we'd buy 5 rounds, and because you'd be like, whatever, I could do it. After like the 3rd round, I'd be exhausted, and I'd be like, how am I so tired from?
Yeah, you're totally tired, and we had to push our go-karts around, so we'd have them parked. I don't know, maybe a football length back to where the track is. So you'd push your go-kart up. So it was a good little workout. I mean, definitely kept yourself fit as a kid.
So what age did your father start you in go-karting at?
So I started competitively racing at 8, but I mean, I had my first snowmobile, my first go-kart, all of that at I would say we got them around when I was 2 or 3. My sister wasn't born yet.
Okay.
And so, when I went to driver ed school, I had been driving a go-kart 2-footed because you have the steering wheel in between your legs, right?
Right.
So I went to driver's ed and they're just like, no, you have to use 1 foot. You can't use 2 feet. And I was like, well, this is stupid. I've been using 2 feet my entire life. Like, what are you talking about? So that was kind of fun to try to pass my driver's test.
Yeah. They just reminded me, I go to Spain a lot. I'll rent manual cars in Spain.
Yep.
Because it's cheaper and it's fun, like just to drive manual
exactly.
again for a while. But I was back and I drive a Tesla here, and I was on the highway and I totally wasn't thinking, and my left foot went to hit the clutch, and oh man, I slammed on my brakes so hard in the middle of the highway. It scared the hell out of myself. I was like, oh.
Yeah. No, it's funny. It's definitely, and even when I'm driving in the car, so driving a go-kart, you used to drive at 10 and 2 because you weren't really, I don't know, it was easier. But then as I raced larger cars, I adapted my skill to hold the steering wheel more at the bottom. And so every once in a while, I'll catch myself, like I'll be on the interstate, like I-95 going 80 miles an hour and both of my hands are down here. And I keep my thumbs I don't want to make a complete circle. I keep my thumbs out because if you do get in a wreck, like the easiest thing to break is your hands and your fingers because you're gripping too hard.
Right.
So I learned how to adapt and keep my thumbs around the outside of the wheel. So if I did rear end somebody or someone ran into my wheels or whatever, at least like hopefully I wouldn't break my thumbs because I definitely broke my pinkies quite a bit.
Oh, geez.
And it was from the gripping of the wheel.
Really? I know when I was younger, they used to teach us to do, I don't know, what is that, 9 and 11 or... But now
9,
they say
11,
under,
10 and 2, something like that, yeah.
But now I think they teach everyone under because of the airbag.
Yep, yeah,
Okay.
exactly. Because then that can throw your arms up. And that was one thing, too, that they taught us. When in go-karts, you don't have a cage or anything over you. And so if you feel like your go-kart is in the air, you want to tuck your arms in and push yourself out and try to like vacate the vehicle because again, this thing weighed more than I did. If it fucking landed on me, I'd be crushed. And so the one time I rolled my go-kart, we have it on VHS. It's pretty interesting because I'm coming out of the corner and all of a sudden you see my go-kart get airborne and you see me just push like this, but my foot got stuck in the steering wheel.
Oh, geez.
And so the whole cart came down on my ankle. And so I was like, well, it's interesting. Again, your body just does what it's supposed to do, I guess. But 24 little go-karts went under me and my go-kart. I land on the ground. The cart lands on my leg and bounces over.
Wow. Were you okay? You didn't break a leg?
I didn't break a leg. It probably would have been better if I broke it. I'd massively bruised it. Yeah. And so, so that was kind of, and I got to ride in the ambulance and all the fun things.
Memories, these things are great.
It was great. It was a good time. But yeah, so it's definitely like when you think about how cars are built today, very similar to like how we grew up racing and knowing what was safe, where your hand should be, where you should keep your arms and everything. Because of, again, like the impacts that you could potentially have going 100 miles an hour.
Right. It's amazing that your instinct was still to push yourself out because it's not something you can really train for. It's not like you've
right.
It's not muscle memory. It's not muscle memory to push yourself out of the car. No.
Exactly. It's not muscle memory, but it's something that like they went over almost every single Saturday with us because you have a driver's meeting. You talk about safety. You talk about the night's events. Is there a special? Yada, yada, yada. And I would say almost every single week, like they would review what you need to do if you're flipping or if you're in some sort of accident. And so I think it was just like repetitive.
That worked. It almost got you out.
It almost got me out. Almost got me out. Yeah.
So did you meet your husband flipping him off? Was that the...
Well... So
I have to ask that woman out.
It's kind of funny because, when we were kids, I hated him. He was such a jerk. And he grew up in Minnesota. I grew up in Iowa. We grew up social classes were very different. My parents were very poor. His parents were not. But the common tie is like his uncle is one of my dad's best friends. And so there's this whole racing community. Our parents have been partying together for years. And, my husband, we lost contact because he stopped racing go-karts and decided to buy a 67 Dodge Charger and redo that. And so he gave up the go-kart stuff for that. And he was in town at his uncle's for Christmas. And, we were all out at a bar the couple nights before Christmas or whatever, and he came out with his cousin. And I was like, are you as big of an asshole as I remember you being when we were kids? And he still kind of was an asshole, but not as big of an asshole.
Yeah. Well, all men are to an extent, so it's
yeah. So it was kind of cool to like just reconnect. And he was in the Navy, and so we just really started our relationship as a long distance relationship. Oh. But I would have never probably walked up to him at that bar if we had not raced. And fast forward, we've been married 20 years now, but my mom, she found all these short stories that I used to write as a kid, like in 3rd or 4th grade. And a lot of the times the villain in my stories was my now husband.
That's hilarious.
Isn't it so funny? Like, yeah. Who knew little Amy actually was going to end up with this guy?
Right? That's crazy. Yeah. So now are you raising little villains yourself now? Is that the...
No, we've just got 2 crazy cats, and that's it.
Okay. They can't race, although they sound like they're doing damage behind you. So it's...
Yeah, sometimes they run around here like crazy fools, but yeah.
So how long did you race go-karts for? Until
so I could start racing big cars the summer that I turned 15. One of the tracks let me run a large stock car. Mm-hmm. And so I started doing both that summer and fully went into stock car racing at 16. And then did that until, I want to say I was probably 18 when I started racing a lower level of NASCAR.
Okay. So how far did you take that?
So I took it to a low level of NASCAR, like in Minnesota in the Midwest.
What does that mean? What is low level of
NASCAR? So
then,
NASCAR is the large national circuit, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we just, again, had the Daytona 500. All across the nation, there's little regionals that are NASCAR sanctioned. So we all run by the same rules. We have, you have to have your NASCAR membership card or whatever. And so within those little pods and little regions all across the nation, a lot of times that's where your larger race car, famous race car drivers eventually come from. Mm-hmm. So you start more at a regional level and then go up to a national level. So if you think about it, it's like going through, middle school, high school, basketball, graduating, playing in college. College is going to be a regional NASCAR thing. And then hopefully from college, you can go up to the big leagues, right?
Right. Okay.
So
I got you. Okay. And this carried you out of the careers because you've had a lot of, you've tested the waters in a bunch of different careers. And I guess
not an industry I've been in.
Well, this one brought you into being a classic DJ.
Yeah, so what had happened is I challenged our local radio DJ to a go-kart race to raise funds to start a youth program in my community.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So, I had to be 15 at the time, 14 at the time.
Did he know your history? Did he know who was challenging you?
He knew who I was. Yeah. I'm pretty famous in my hometown, so there's not a lot of girls who race go-karts. My town's only about 30,000 big, so so it's not a huge metro, like DC or huge city or whatever. But so I called him up, challenged him to a go-kart race to raise funds to start this youth group in our community because we needed something. And so he put me on air, and we were, he was interviewing me before the race and after the race. And I mean, this man had to be 350 pounds, maybe 400 pounds. He was a huge guy, and I beat him because he was so huge. The go-kart couldn't go as fast, but that was besides the point.
Right.
And we had such a great time. He's like, hey, would you want to do a racing report show every Friday and Monday? He's like, I would love to have you on. This was a good time. Once you turn 14, like I'll give you a job at the station. And so I started my career doing the reports on Friday and Monday before I'd catch the school bus. I'd call into the radio station on my home phone. And, I'd have to make sure that I stayed up and watched the 10 o'clock news to see the sports reports and pick up the paper in the morning when it got delivered so that I could actually have the knowledge to report on what was happening. And then, started my career in radio there. And, if you fast forward probably 6 years into it, I was at a classic rock station and I was not even 20 and was rated the top classic rock or the top DJ in southern Minnesota for the drive at home time. And I had no idea who Alice Cooper was. I remember meeting Alice Cooper and saying, "Happy birthday. I hope she has a beautiful day." And got so many phone calls. And I was like, just kidding, making sure you're all listening to me.
Trying to save face.
Right, exactly. Like Google wasn't quite popular back then. So, yeah.
That's funny. That's being caught red-handed and not knowing what you're doing. That's
Exactly. So yeah, it was kind of fun to backpedal that one. But yeah, so it was, I think racing led to me knowing that my connections and ability to build a following. I mean, I had people at my pit at the end of every race, every week, no matter how good or bad I did. And so building that community, building that I guess aligned audience is what I would call it now, being in the marketing space. Mm-hmm. Knowing that I could do that then in radio and have those, loyal followers who, would recommend my show to anybody and always listen, no matter if I call Alice Cooper happy birthday, male or female. But when I really tapped into that, going on further into my career and realizing, wow, this is a skill set that I have, and it doesn't matter what industry I'm in, I can always do this. I can always build community. That's, right. I mean, I figured that out after I left radio. My husband was in the Navy, so I had to move and eventually go be with him. And started working for a publication company and really built what we called a 40 under 40 awards program. So it's the top 40 business professionals under the age of 40. Okay. And really built that out from the ground up, but built it because I was able to build a great following and a great community around something larger than just myself.
Right. It's pretty wild. It's wild listening to this and hearing how similar things were back then in a lot of ways to they are now. I don't think many people had the opportunity to create followings and to do things like that back then. Now, almost anyone can. Whether or not they can do it well is a different story, but but everyone can. So it's interesting that you had that experience way before. You're almost doing a podcast in a way back then, calling into the radio show, and you're following for your racing career, and people are getting behind you from there. People have all sorts of things they're doing online now and wanting followings.
Exactly, and it's crazy to build that type of a community pre-internet. Mm-hmm. And to now be able to carry out those skills while still doing it online it's a different animal, but it's very much so same processes, same beliefs, same vision, same mission.
What are the most important things that you did back then that you've carried over to now and doing now?
I think the biggest thing is, one, letting people know that you hear and see them is really, really important. And, I may not have known everybody's name that followed me, and, there wasn't Facebook, so I couldn't go back and look up people and whatnot, but just letting them know that they're important to you. And so if I recognized their face and be like, "Oh, it's so great to see you again," or "Thanks for coming out and cheering me on again," just recognizing that they're believing and investing in you as much as you believe and invest in yourself, I think is really, really key. And, there's this one comedian, her name is Lisa, and she's out of Wisconsin, and she has this slogan, "We're only strangers once." And I absolutely believe that. Once I've met you, you're in my network. And if there's any way that I can connect you to somebody else, or if there's some way that, I know a friend who lives there who does that, that commonality of connecting human to human, I think is key on the online space or in person or at the go-kart track.
How can people do that online when they can't see the person and, you have 100 followers that you haven't actually met, but they feel like they've met you?
Yeah. And I think it really comes down to creating a mission that you can articulate clearly so that people can get behind it. And you can create visions that people can get behind. I do think that relationships tend to happen organically. And when you are in the online space, jump into those conversations when people reach out. If you're feeling connected to somebody because of what they said and it's driving what you say too, approach it from that place of, wow, we see the world through a similar lens. I'd love to talk more and just be in your space. And I think aligning our energies in that space and in that way is a lot more organic and not as like you salesmen car force, you're
Got you. Yes.
easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
I really think like good things will happen, but there are people out there who are going to tell you to go kick the curb, and they don't care, they don't want to interact with you, but they're not your people. I know I'm not everybody's person, and that's a-okay, and just accepting that and who you are, and knowing that you're building something that's bigger than you is kind of a fun thing to be doing.
Oh yeah, it most definitely is. So this is what you help other businesses do through your business, correct?
Yeah. So through, I do a lot of coaching and consulting in the mission-driven space. Sometimes it ends up being a nonprofit. Sometimes it ends up being a business owner. And really it is helping someone who has a mission and knows that they can create a movement to positively impact people's lives, but they just don't know how to go about doing it because it doesn't come intuitively to everybody. I have no idea why I was good at this at the ripe old age of 8 and could go out and talk to the Hardee's guy and get ice cream coupons for the kids that came to my go-kart trailer afterwards. But it's the innate gift that I have. And so what I appreciate when I'm helping other people and other business owners is their innate gift is usually not what I have. And so when we can collaborate and join forces, it's really great to be able to help more people. It's that ripple down effect, right?
Right. So what is something that you'll have a small business do off the bat to get going, to try to get attention, try to get followers,
Such a great question. And one of the things that I have been using for about the last decade is called the content personality. And a lot of times, one thing that really, I guess, makes me upset about the marketing industry in general is people expect marketers to be jack of all trades and mastering it all. They want you to be able to write press releases and stories. They want you to be able to create videos and edit videos and create graphics and do live presentations and all of these things. And it's not fair. There's just no way.
I just handed you all my money. I want,
right?
I want it on a silver platter. Just
person can be great at all those things. And so I've been using this content personality quiz to really help people tap into what their innate content creation gift is and follow that and let the rest go. So, I went to journalism school. I'm a horrible writer. I hate writing. I would much rather sit here and chat it up with you. And so, but what I loved about journalism school is I loved being able to go out and interview people. I loved being able to learn people's stories. And I would go back to the newsroom and talk about it, but I'd always be that reporter that my story wouldn't get turned in until 5 minutes past deadline because I'd be trying to type it out. Well, it's because my content personality is not written. It's live in person. And so that is the very first thing, whether you're just starting a business, whether you've had a business for 20 years, if you have a team, it's so magical when you can build a team and have every content personality type actually on your team and allow them to thrive in that type alone. So that would be my first recommendation. Google content personality quiz and take it.
Okay. And have each of your employees take it, even if they're... And if they have nothing to do with trying to get the word out or trying to turn them into that, though, let them use what they're good at.
Well, and I think, too, when you think about teams, especially in the nonprofit space, a lot of times people are wearing multiple hats. And so, if your salesperson is a really great audio content personality type and they're going to pick up the phone and feel comfortable calling people, but then the other salesperson is a written audio type, they're going to feel more comfortable having a strategy, reaching out via email and writing people. And so but if I ask them to switch or ask them to do 50% both, you have to 50% email and 50% audio, you have to do 50-50, they're not going to thrive. And so really allowing people to thrive in their strongest skill set. I always hear people, I'm weak in writing, so I need to get better at it. I'm like, no, you don't. Be good at what you're good at and find someone else to be on your team who's a really, really good writer.
This all sounds great to me because I own businesses and I love to delegate. And this is telling me I can now delegate more of my work that I've been trying to like cram, which I'm probably not very good at.
Yeah.
Which is something I always tell myself. I'm like, find people that are better at you, and why not use the resources you already have, which are the people working already for you and with you.
Yeah, exactly. And I think it doesn't hurt to explore some of those skill sets, and especially someone who's earlier on in their career, like you won't know unless you tried writing to realize you're not good at it or you don't like it.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, I had a CEO once at a coalition for standardized construction contracts straight up tell me, no, I'm not sending you to go speak at conferences. I want you to use that money to go take writing classes because you need to be a better writer. And I was like, but you didn't hire me to write, buddy. You hired me to get out there and speak. Like, no, that's not where my skills align. So again, it's just really standing in what you're really, really good at. How can you leverage that? How can you make that 10% better? And to be honest, letting a lot of the rest go.
Got you. Makes a lot of sense. What's the name of that test that people should know about?
Content Personality Quiz.
Okay. All right. Well, definitely check it out. The name of your business is Joyful Business Revolution.
Yeah, correct. So I am part of the Joyful Business Revolution. And it's really interesting because we look at building your business and your brand from the lens of joy instead of the lens of I have to. So when you're talking about, things you don't want to do that you probably should be delegating, we really talk through how to do that practically, but also through that lens of joy. Because I think a lot of times we'll leave, a 9-to-5 job or a corporate job or the nonprofit world, whatever. We leave and we start these businesses. And then more times than not, I see people become prisoners to their own businesses. And they think because they've started this thing and this is their business, there's so much responsibility. And so we've really got to scale back and look at business through the lens of joy and not through the lens of I have to.
Right. I've run businesses, and it's always when you run a business after a certain time, are you working for your business, or are you owning your business and enjoying it? I mean, it's pointless after a while if you're enjoying it, because if you're just doing it for the cash and you're miserable, then apparently you've learned that money doesn't buy you happiness, and you got to figure that out.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, it's that balance of, all right, life, family, what else do you value besides your business? And a lot of times, we see this sometimes when people become parents, they lose their own identity because they now have these children, and people lose their own identity because they start this business and it becomes all consuming. And, if you're not having time on the evenings to go for walks and cook dinners or play with your kids or go tinker with your go-kart, then why are you doing any of it? So really finding a schedule that aligns best for you and your business, and really looking at it from a lifestyle and a business style and blending those and then building from there. And a lot of times in marketing and messaging where I see other people coaches, well, what does your ideal client need? What do they want? When do they want it? And I mean, hopefully I can swear. I'm like, who gives a shit what they want? Right. What is it you want? You're the one that started this business, not them. And so if you're unhappy in your business, there is no way your clients are going to be happy, because they're going to see that you're not a happy human. And we don't want to hang out with unhappy humans, right?
It's very true. It's very true. It'd be really fascinating if we all kept a log of how happy we were in our business that we were running and how we felt about ourselves during the running of the business. And there was like a graph that went along with the amount of money that was made or with how well the business was making. And I bet it would align very closely. Oh my
God. One of the exercises that we have our students do at the Joyful Business Revolution is every week we have them do a CEO coffee date. And to be honest, it tracks. It really, really does. I'm asking how many sales calls they have, how much revenue they brought in. And then I'm asking about how are they feeling in their business this week? What's bringing them joy? What's a roadblock? What's something that's disturbing them? What's something that they're celebrating? And the ones when they are down in the dumps, their revenue is really down in the dumps. And so that, that's when I have to kind of put that mindset coach hat on and help them see that this isn't, one, it's not the end all be all. There's tomorrow. But two, if we can start chipping away at some of the negative tones or negative stories that you're telling yourself, or the negative way that you're looking at how you sell or how you market your business, those tiny little shifts it's those baby steps that take it back up. It's the energy and the attitude that we put into things.
Oh yeah. It's hard though. You can be running a business, loving it, and then you just hit a rut. It's just, it could be the same business. Everything could be going the same way, and it's just a wall. It's
so true. And I think, like, again, have been in business doing tons of different things, ever since I was 8. And yeah, it's not all rainbows and unicorns, and you do hit those lull. And we work with a lot of former teachers too, who leave the teaching industry to tap into a passion that they have or a gift. And it really is interesting watching someone go through business the first time and, seeing them hit that wall and really being able then to help pick them back up and tell them, well, this wall is probably going to rebuild itself and pop up again, and you're going to smack dab into it, right? Mm-hmm. And it is that cycle of business and entrepreneurship. And, sometimes after that first smack in the wall, they're like, this isn't for me. I can't do it. And they do go back to something else, which is fine. Entrepreneurship isn't for everyone, but it sure isn't super smooth. Otherwise, we all would be doing it. We all would be millionaires.
Yeah. It can be very rewarding, and it can be the most stressful thing because you bring it home with you. It's with you at 2 a.m. when you wake up. It does not leave you.
It's so true. Yeah, it's so true. And I think getting into the mindset and getting into habits and rituals so that you can leave it somewhere else besides in that beautiful brain of yours at 2 a.m.
Right. Right. At 2 a.m., that brain's not feeling so beautiful. It's feeling more like a monster of like, let me sleep. Like, you are just.
Yeah.
So you've, along with this business, you've done a lot of other things. One of the ones that I found more interesting, or they were all pretty interesting, was working at the group home with people or men with schizophrenia and with other types of mental health issues. I can't imagine some of the stories or how that was to get through.
Well, so the reason why I took that job is you could sleep at that job. And so I figured if I could basically work 24 hours and make money for 24 hours, that would help me pay for college. I'd never have to take out any loans. So this was my solution to put me through college. And so it was interesting because I also was on the radio at that time, and I would record the last hour of my show so that I could get to the group home in order to get everybody to bed and stuff. And so I would walk in the door, and one of the gentlemen loved my radio show. And my radio name was Haley Fox, so he didn't know it was me at all. And so he'd be in his room listening to Haley, and I'd pop in and be like, hey, how's it going? How was your day? And he's like, shh, Haley's on the radio. So to have things be so interconnected.
That's too funny.
I think really working at that job really made me understand and appreciate more and more how to be compassionate for people. And just really know that there are days when they have their best foot forward, and then there are days where it is just shit. And you've got to take a deep breath, because if you get all wound up and they're all wound up, it's not going to help anybody. And so to be able to regulate and calm myself down so that maybe I could calm this person down. And, this gentleman, gosh, he was like 6'3". He was a huge dude. And, but when he was just when his mind was working against him, there just was nothing you could do but then figure out the best way to make sure that he was safe and to look at safety at a different way. And, I think it was a really great experience. And then there were 3 gentlemen at the same group home to even see how they interacted with each other with these mental illnesses. And there were days where they were all feeling like they were, pals and could really collaborate because they were feeling the same feelings. And then there were days where they were just straight up fighting each other. And I'm like, all right, you guys got to go to your rooms because I can't break up a fist fight. You're bigger than me. So let's be reasonable and deep breath. Let's all go to our spaces. But some of the kindest people I've ever have worked with. And again, just learning how to be compassionate. But I really took that job because I was bound and determined not to leave college in debt. And so if I could get paid to sleep on the couch after I put all these guys to bed, I was going to get paid to sleep on the couch.
Got you. It's just such a hard thing to work with. Mental illness is so hard to work with because you can't grab it. and you don't walk in a room, you can't see it.
Right.
So you have to feel it out and figure out what it is you have to do to help it.
And I think being able to, again, remove yourself from the situation, know it's not anything you did, right? I didn't, cause the confusion in their head that day. But to approach it of, all right, knowing this person's in a bad space, what tiny little thing can I do that might help them? And sometimes those tiny little things is what goes the furthest to getting more consistent days that are better. So.
Right. Thank you so much for being on here. It really has been a joy talking to you. And I've learned a lot. I relate everything back to my small businesses. So in these podcasts, I'm always very selfish with some of my questions. And I haven't taken notes, but I'm going to re-listen to this and I'm going to do about a dozen things that we talked about today. So.
Awesome. Well, if you take the content personality quiz, I am very curious to see what your results are. So feel free to share with me once you do it.
Okay. I most definitely do. Do you think you know what they're going to be, or is it not always so?
I'm not very good at reading what other people are and will be. And so I think, if I was able to ask you a whole slew of other questions about what you do like and don't like and what you are currently doing in your business, maybe I could get to it.
Well, great. People can find you at joyfulbusinessrevolution.com.
Yep.
Is there any other website you want to share? We're going to post them below. And
yeah. I would say if you end up taking the quiz, it's on Joyful Business Revolution. There's also contentpersonalityclub.com that you can find the quiz there too. And the club is really great for any small business owner, any coach, consultant, service-based business owner who really wants to come and play and create marketing and messaging together. I really think it comes clearer through conversation and not sitting there trying to do it on your own. And so if that's something that's interesting, we meet the first 3 Wednesdays of every month and we create some pretty fun messaging together.
Okay, great. Well, we will put both of those links below the podcast.
Awesome.
So thank you for sharing them. And if you search Content Personality Quiz, your website comes up first.
Yep. Yay, SEO guy.
Yes, you've done well with that.
Awesome.
So thanks again, and stay in touch.